Hello everybody, this is General Yanis, and today in Death Card Tactics I will be looking at the Eradicators threat to Death Card and how can we deal with the Eradicators. So as Mortarion says, we have to know thy enemy, so we have to study a bit our opponents to see how we best can counter them. So let's get started. So today, the 21st of February, I have the Codex in my hands. Finally, I was surprised how thin the Codex is in comparison, for example, to the Space Marine Codex. But I'm looking forward to read even more in the Codex. But in this video, I'm focusing more on our opponents, the Eradicators, and with the launch of the 9th edition back in summer, and the release of the Indomitus box set, their Eradicators entered the stage and were introduced in the Space Marines arsenal and quickly saw widespread use on the tabletop. And I remember when I first saw their crazy rules and the data sheet, I was quite quite surprised and a bit worried, to be honest. So in this video, I'm looking at the threat that Eradicators pose to our new Death Guard units and how to face them. First, I will start with a short overview of Eradicator stats and weapons. I will look at their damage output and compare to our Death Card units just to see the benchmark if they are better per point than our units. Then I will be looking at a typical squad of Eradicators, how much damage can it do to our Death Card units, which units are especially vulnerable, where should we be careful. And then finally, how to deal with the Eradicators. What can we do to counter them? So let's take a look. So let's start with the Eradicator stats. So the Eradicators cost 45 points. They are in the heavy support slot. Actually, their baseline stats look a lot like Death Guard, to be honest. So they have a 5-inch movement, 3+ weapon skill and ballistic skill, strength 4, toughness 5, which makes them a bit more durable with a 5 toughness, and then they have 3 wounds each, so they are not the easiest to remove from the tabletop. They have 2 attacks. The sergeant has 3, and they have the leadership, and then they have the 3+ save, and thankfully they don't have any invul save. If they also had some invul save, then they would be then I would probably not want to face them. If we look at some good durable stats here, the wounds and the toughness and okay save, but thankfully no invul save. If we look at their weapon choices, now comes some interesting part. They have a Melta rifle as a standard, so for this 45 points, and it's an assault 1 weapon with 24-inch range, and then the Melta profile of strength 8, AP -4, and damage D6. The damage becoming D6 plus 2 in half range, like all Meltas. They can also now the kit that was in the Indomitus, they had only the Melta rifle, but now I think there is a new box where you can have different weapon options. So the heavy Melta rifle costs 5 points more. It's a heavy type weapon, heavy 1, but instead it's doing D6 plus 2 damage, so it's even more damage, and D6 plus 4 damage in half range. And all of the Eradicators can change their weapon with a heavy Melta rifle. And then they also have access to a multi-Melta for plus 10 points. It's a heavy 2 weapon. So this is strength 8, AP -4, damage D6, and it's D6 plus 2, and 1 out of 3 in the squad can get it. And the squad size can go from 3 in total to 6, from 3 to 6 in total. As Space Marines, they have the Angel of Death rules, and then they can form combat squads. They are also equipped with bolt pistols and grenade, but they don't have any dedicated melee weapon, and they are not very good in melee, but they have some close firearm here. But what really makes them stand out is there's this crazy ability, the total obliteration ability. If they don't advance, then Eradicators can fire twice if they shoot one at the same and one enemy unit, which means that a squad of 5 Eradicators can thus have an output of 10 Melta rifle shots. So this is really crazy, considering, for example, if we have a Hemiphytic Blight Holder shooting 2 Melta shots, and then these Eradicators, just 3 of them can shoot 6 Melta shots. I mean, yeah, it's crazy for the points. Additionally, they are a core unit, of course, and they thus this means that they can be buffed considerably to get rerolls, and there are litanies for the Space Marines that give them, for example, could give them +1 to hit, +1 to wound, and combinations of rerolls. They can be, yeah, they can, as a core unit, they can be substantially buffed. Yeah, so a lot of melta shots and also the potential to be buffed. In this video, the main focus, I will check a little bit the extra weapons, but the main focus will be on the standard loadout with melta rifles. The other options can deal more damage and can be more threatening, for example, to Mortarion or something like this. But being heavy, they will be -1 to hit, unless the Space Marine chapter has rules to circumvent this when the Eradicators are moving, then they will be shooting at with a penalty. But I think there are, of course, Space Marine chapters like Ultramarines in Tactical Doctrine that they can move, and then it counts as they have not moved. And probably there is a lot of other combinations for the Space Marine chapters, and I'm not an expert in the Space Marines. So, and then Salamander's Space Marine chapter are especially dangerous. In the Tactical Doctrine, the melta weapons of the Salamanders get +1 to wound. So in this case, Salamanders will be really dangerous for us to face, because they will be wounding every unit we have. They will be wounding on 2+, and Mortarion and Plague Scroller, they will be wounding on 3+. So basically, the Salamanders are crazy dangerous with their Eradicators. So here I'm looking at the shooting damage output against the standard targets I'm used to look at, and this is corrected for 100 points. So here I'm comparing a squad of 5 Eradicators with the standard melta rifles for 225 points. Then the blue line and then the dashed line is at half range. They can do more damage. And then here we have a very heavy squad, so 5 Eradicators where every guy has a heavy melta and one has a multi-melta. So in this, with a multi-melta, the guy with a multi-melta would be shooting twice, so 4 shots with his multi-melta. So it's crazy amount of multi heavy shots here, and here it's in half range, and we can see that they are doing a very high number of damage, especially against vehicles and tougher targets. For example, here predators or gladiators, or heavy tanks or things with no inval save. Of course, they are not very good at some units with only 1 wound. Then a lot of the damage gets wasted. Basically, it's no point in shooting a melta at some cultists or guardsmen or battle sisters or whatever. 1 wound targets are not very good. It's not a good target for the melta guns. So they can do very high damage. And especially at half range, if they come close to half range to vehicles, they can really do significant damage. And they are, of course, not effective versus one wound, let's say, chaff targets. But it's not like the Space Marine arsenal doesn't have the tools to deal with those. For example, aggressors, they can spam a lot of bolter type shots, for example, against these type of targets, and maybe letting the Eradicators do the heavy job. So, just quickly here, average shooting damage of the Eradicators compared to death card units. If we take the average across the 31 General Yanis targets that I'm usually looking at the baseline damage, here we see for the 24-inch, the large range, they are even with the standard rifles, they are better. For example, per point than a Contemptor with Twin Culverin, or the Plague Scroller, or anything we have in our arsenal. Here you can see the Eradicators are just much more effective at 24 inches. And if they have the heavy weapons, they get even more so. Here I'm not counting with the penalties, and this is just the baseline, no other buffs. And here for the half, let's say 12-inch shooting at short range, they are even better. So for example, here the Eradicators are better per points than anything else that we have in our arsenal. For example, the Foul Blightspawn, and the heavy ones are even more. And also, if we buff them, if we count with some buffs, and here I'm looking at the Eradicators getting rerolls to hits and wounds, for example, from a captain and a lieutenant, and then they, with some litanies, they can get +1 to hit and +1 to wound. Maybe they get +1 to wound because the Salamanders, if we do this, they get at long range, they get even higher, and basically only the Contemptor with Talisman and fully buffs and everything can do more, and this is, let's say, a very expensive Forge World unit with command points to take. So nothing in our army, nor typical things, come even close to this damage output. So yeah, so they are better per points and can do a lot of crazy shooting damage. But what can they do against our death card units that have disgusting resilience? So here I'm looking at the average damage that 5 unbuffed Eradicators can do with the standard Melta rifles against the various death card units. And in this table here, I'm looking first what they can do against vehicle and characters, and down here what they can do at squads. And here you can see the various death card units here. And here we first see the average wounds that the Eradicators will be, 5 Eradicators will be able to do, so with no correction. So for example, shooting at Mortarion, they would only be doing around 3 wounds on Mortarion. At long range, they would be doing 5.5 wounds on the Plague War Scroller. If we look at Lord of Contagion, Lord of Virulence, and Typhus, if those are alone on the table somewhere and 5 Eradicators can shoot them, they will be doing 5.6 wounds and almost killing them, almost taking out 6 wounds. And when you have this d6 variability and 4+ invul saves, it would happen that sometimes they die, sometimes they save more, and so on. But they are, it's very dangerous if the Eradicators can shoot at our unprotected characters, except Mortarion, let's say. A Chaos Lord would not be able to survive, having only 5 wounds. If we look at our lighter demon engines, like the Mephitic Blightholder, the Furtive Bloodthrone, if we take here the Contemptor and the Leviathan, they also have 5+ invul saves. Then basically they would be getting 7.5 wounds on average, so very close to taking them out. Again, with some lucky rolling from the Eradicators, they could take them out even here. Demon Prince is the same, so very close to killing him at long range. The Land Raider also taking heavy shots, and here you can see that as we go down the list here, they are taking more and more wounds. Here we have variant characters and the Plaguecaster, they have the same type of durability, so they will be getting 9 or 11 wounds. A Talisman Plaguecaster, they don't have invul saves, they will just be outright killed here. The Surgeon doesn't do anything. The Defiler is also very susceptible. It has a 5+ invul save, but it doesn't have disgusting resilience. It will be taking 10 wounds, so very close to be killed. The Hellbrute will be definitely gone, and the Chaos Rhino doesn't have any chance to survive, or a Predator tank. So if we put out our Rhino in the first turn and Eradicators can shoot it, it will most likely go up in flames. It doesn't have so much protection. Of course, we could use Miasma of Pestilence to improve it a little bit, but it shows that they can do significant damage to most of our units, and probably Mortarion and Plague War Scroller are those that can take it the best. Here we see average number of dead models, and here vehicles and characters, a lot of them with the crosses are basically gone. And here I'm just calculating, if you want to look into detail, what is the point loss they are incurring to our army from one round of shooting. So killing, let's say, full units, or making, let's say, taking half or more than half of a Land Raider, so they would be costing us 160 points in theory here. If we are at half range, they do even more damage, and here even more things are killed. So here we don't have any chance that the Demon Prince, or yeah, okay, we can get really lucky with our rolls, but on average, anything in half range being shot by 5 Eradicators would be killed, except maybe the Land Raider, it will survive, and Mortarion and the Plague War Scroller, but they will be quite damaged. But basically, not many vehicles can survive any shots from 5 Eradicators at 12-inch range. And here, just for, yeah, and these are not buffed, just say completely unbuffed, no rerolls, no nothing. But if we have, for example, Salamanders at half range here, they can do even more damage. Then basically, yeah, even the Plague War Scholar would be dead. Basically, everything will be dead. The Land Raider will be dead, and then only Mortarion can take this sort of punishment. If we look at the squads, here we start with the Blight Lords and Death Route Terminators. They will be here. We can see but they are quite okay dealing with this, taking this punishment, let's say, with a 4+ invul save, and that they cannot, the damage doesn't spill over, etc. But we will have one dead model and probably something wounded. The possessed, we would be expecting 2 dead models in a group at 24 inches. And here it's quite interesting that, for example, poxwalkers and cultists, we will just be expecting 5 of them to die. So this is really good if we could get the eradicators to shoot our cheaper troops instead of our more expensive and better troops here. Here we can see the Plague Marines with and without surgeon, and here we had the Blight Lord Terminator with and without surgeon. On average, we will have three dead Marines. Here we'll have 3 to 4 dead Plague Marines. The surgeon doesn't help so much against these very high damage weapons. And the Chaos Spawn would also be taking a lot of wounds, but because they have 4 wounds each, there will not be so many models dying, but they will be taking considerable damage. Here we see the Chaos Spawn upgraded to have disgusting resilience, will be faring a little bit better. At half range, more things die as expected. At versus salamanders at half range, even more things, more wounds are going on. So of course you can pause here and look into more details if you want to see some more stats. But then if these eradicators are further buffed by rerolls, they would be doing even more damage. Miasma of Pestilence, Smokescreen, etc. can help. On average, they will be getting 33% less damage across the unit that gets it. Cover doesn't help a lot versus the Meltas because the AP -4, it's very difficult to save in any case, and a lot of our units, they have invul saves. Most of our units will be taking it on invul saves, and cover doesn't really help. And depending on death card target, the eradicators will typically earn their money back in 2 turns of shooting. So there will, a unit here of 225 points will be doing damage for hundreds of points depending on what they're shooting. So they are really, point effective for the Space Marine players. So let's look at some general considerations how to deal with eradicators. As we saw, the eradicators can do very high amount of damage to nearly all our units, especially our vehicles and characters. Mortarion and Plague Scroller have some natural defense, having a toughness 8, but eradicators can be also buffed to get +1 to wound to counteract this. Rhinos, Predators, Hellbrutes, and Defilers are especially vulnerable for vehicles, and avoid as much as possible allowing the eradicators to shoot your characters. All our characters except Mortarion can be killed in 1 round, especially at close range to the eradicators. So protect the characters with squads or vehicles nearby, or keeping them obscured or out of sight. This can be, of course, more tough when we are trying to get close to eradicators to engage them in melee and take them out. But of course, if we can utilize obscuring terrain for our vehicles and characters, that will be helpful. As we saw, our Terminators can be quite durable to Eradicator fire, so the D6 damage roll minus discussing resilient, they need a 4+ to be killed with 1 shot, but only a 2+ in half range. Important to make the invul saves, of course, if you can do that. The Plague Surgeon can help the Terminators maybe become wounded. Just saving with a 6, taking a bit wounds less can make the Eradicators waste shots. And beware when we deep strike our Terminators to come close. If they are within 12 inches of the Eradicators, the Auspex scan stratagem allows the unit to be able to fire at the reinforcement or deep striking unit, and they would be taking 1-2 Terminators out. And then if we can place them so that the Eradicators cannot shoot, and then we can charge them, that would be, of course, the best way to deep strike. The Plague Marines have no save and will die on 3+ on the D6 damage roll, but they will just be dead at half range. There will not be any saves, and whatever the damage roll is, they would be dying. They can benefit a little bit from cover, but they will only have a 6+ save. Except in the heavy weapon doctrine in the beginning, the Devastator doctrine, this would not even help. And the Plague Surgeon will have only limited effect to save Plague Marines. Poxwalkers and cultists are not a good target for the eradicators, and if you can get your opponent to waste shots on them, this is good for us. Unfortunately, Space Marines have a lot of other units to shoot at Poxwalkers. And then Possessed and Chaos Spawn are also quite good at taking some Eradicator fire. All in all, with a very high damage potential, Eradicators are a prime target for us and a big threat that we need to remove from the table before they do a lot of damage to our units. So how can we take them out? How can Death Guard strike back? So the Eradicators have 3 wounds each and toughness 5. They are infantry and can hide in ruins. They can take advantage of cover, etc. Thankfully, they don't have any invul save, praise Nurgle, and their durability can be further enhanced by transhuman physiology stratagem, which only allows us to wound them on a 4+, even for example for Mortarion. They are very good at shooting, but they are not a threat at all in melee. They cannot do basically so much against our units. So we can either take them out from longer range, preferably at the long range where they cannot fire their 24-inch weapons on them, or in melee where Death Guard is naturally strong. But however, to come into melee, we need to pass the dead zone within the half shooting range of the Eradicators. So probably we need to utilize a combined approach, shooting the Eradicators from afar, whittling them down, every time we kill an Eradicator, we are saving our troops from 2 Melta shots per round, and then finish them off in melee when there are maybe only a few left and they cannot just kill outright a Demon Prince if he comes too close. So the optimal anti-Eradicator weapons, we would probably want something long range, a strength bigger than 5, together with maybe if we can apply the -1 toughness contagion, bring the Eradicators down to toughness 4, that's of course very helpful. A weapon with high AP to bypass their 3+ save. Hopefully we would optimally need something with a high AP so they don't get any save. And then we would need something with a consistent damage 3, a straight damage 3, or something higher. Damage 2 weapons would require 2 hits to kill the Eradicators, so we will be wasting damage, but in lack of anything better, than damage 2 weapons are better, of course, than damage 1 weapons. And if we can add some mortal wounds to the fray, that's always nice. So if we look at what we can do from long range, so taking them down from 24-inch or further back. So I think in this case, the Plagueburst Crawler is our best option. So probably it's the best weapon we have versus Eradicators. Already from the beginning of the game, we can fire the mortar at the Eradicators, even if they are deployed to be hiding behind obscuring terrain. They could be hiding, and then as our units go forward, they crawl out of the ruins and then they shoot, and then they already did a lot of damage. The Plagueburst Crawlers can outrange the Eradicators and are quite durable even to the Eradicator fire from afar. So here the best weapon is the mortar, together with a Disgusting Force stratagem. For 1 command point, we can do it for 1 Plagueburst Crawler. Then we get D6 shots, and probably if it's really important, I would re-roll the D6 here so we can get a high number of shots. So we have in this case strength 8, AP -2, and damage straight 3 with the stratagem. And then we can also bonus give mortal wounds on surrounding units, for example, characters that are buffing the Eradicators. If the Eradicators are out in the open, the entropy cannons are really good as well. 2 shots with strength 8, AP -4, and the damage is really good, damage 3 plus D3, so basically they will be everything that wounds would be killing here if they are out in the open, and no armor save if they are not in cover, let's say. And if you can shoot both the mortar and the entropy cannons, you should be killing 2 on average if you use the stratagem. I've done some calculation here. One thing if we need multiple units to shoot at the Eradicators in the same turn, we can use the cyclic corrosion stratagem together with the mortar to have also everything else becoming plague weapons when they are shooting this Eradicator unit. Contemptor with twin Volkites with a Taliman combo and other combos is also good. We have a lot of shots, It's a damage 2 weapon with no AP, but it can deal mortal wounds, so it could be on average killing a couple of if we can see them, it can be killing a couple of eradicators. And if we are lucky with the dice roll, it can kill even more with a lot of mortal wounds on top of any unsaved damage 2 weapon here. The Defiler cannon. The Defiler also has a good weapon. The Defiler cannon can shoot 72-inch range, strength 8, AP -2, and a damage 3 weapon, but it requires, of course, line of sight. And the Defiler, as we saw, is more vulnerable to Eradicator fire compared to a Plague Bear Scroller. The Hellbrute, buffed with stratagems, can do a lot of damage, but as we saw before, the Hellbrute is very vulnerable to Eradicators, and our infantry units, if they can get some shots, they can also do something. So here is a collection of the average wounds that our units would be making on Eradicators, not point corrected. Here we see what we can do if we maximum buff with stratagems and contagions and rerolls as much as we can for these units. The Contemptor, the Plague Bear Scroller, and the Hellbrute here can do a lot if they are buffed. If they are not buffed, we have here the Defiler can be doing a good job. The Plague Bear Scroller with the Entropy, as I said. Also, this is the Plague Bear Scroller can also shoot them when they're hiding. Here we have the other units, and down here we have other vehicles, and down here we have some squads. So here, if we have some Plague Marines with Blight Launchers and Plasma, they can do, maybe they can take one out, a full squad of Plague Marines. But yeah, the Blight Lord Terminators, 5 of them with the standard bolters, cannot do so much, for example, here. If we go to 12-inch and become a bit shorter range, now we are stepping into the dangerous territory for return fire from the Eradicators. Here the flamer weapons come into play, for example, Defiler with Twin Heavy Flamer. The plasma guns can rapid fire from our Plague Marines. The Foul Blight Spawned weapon can also do something here, but unfortunately it's been nerfed to damage 2 from previously damage 3. The damage 3 was really good with this Plague Flamer to take out every time a wound went through. We could kill an Eradicator. And of course, grenades and so on, and biologous purifying can also help us if we come within closer range. Here you can see the list. I will not go into bigger detail. Here we can see 10 Plague Marines with 2 Blight Launchers and 3 Plasmas would be able to take on average 2 Eradicators in this short range. But of course, they need to come into this range, of course. And then finally, how can we take the Eradicators down in melee? Or in the Death Card army, we have lots of options. Can do good damage to Eradicators in melee. Mortarion stands out. His scythe does the silence does 3 plus d3 damage, and he's very fast model, has plenty of attacks, and he has also the contagions and auras to put the opponent in a bad standing. And Mortarion should be able to wipe a whole Eradicator squad if he's unbracketed. So he hits on 2s, reroll 1s, and wounds on 2s, rerolling 1s. Only transhuman physiology might save the Eradicators. So even a full squad of Eradicators of 5, 6, they could be taken down with a Mortarion in the full bracket. Our other HQ are the Lord of Contagion, Typhus, and Demon Prince. They have damage 3 melee weapons, so every time they also wound and unsaved wounds, then they will be killing an Eradicator. And here they also can be combined with relics, the Lord of Contagion and Demon Prince. For example, the Insect Warp Hive for rerolls for even better damage, or the Scythe Relic with less minus to hit, and etc. The Death Shroud, they normally have damage 2 weapons, but the champion could get a Relic Scythe Entropy for damage 3. Otherwise, they can also do good damage with their damage 2 scythes. The melee Plague Marines with Flail, Cleaver, they can do a lot of attacks. The Mace of Contagion is quite good. It has a damage 3, but low AP. We can also use the Trench Fighter stratagem, giving extra attacks with the knives. And if the melee Plague Marines survive the long journey upfield, they can do a lot of damage. And here in this table, you can see how many wounds we will be doing on the Eradicators. And here we have the hypothetical situation that 10 Plague Marines with flails, cleavers, knife, axe, and mace and power fist for 282 points. They would be doing 21 wounds on average on Eradicators, wiping out a complete squad. Mortarion will also be possible to wipe out a complete squad. The Demon Prince with a Warp Hive, Insect Hive, that's also a very good damage. The Lord of Contagion with a Reaper of Glorious Entropy can do, Demon Prince, and all these characters can do a lot. So Chaos Spawn can do something. Even the Poxwalkers, if we can have 20 Poxwalkers with the Mortal Wound stratagem, the Deathshot Terminators, etc. So if we can come into melee, we can probably silence the Eradicators. So some summary and final thoughts. The Eradicators have very good damage output per point for shooting damage, and they are better basically than any Death Guard unit as a baseline. And being a core unit as well allows them to do even greater damage. The Eradicators are therefore a significant threat on the tabletop for Death Guard units, especially our vehicles and unprotected characters, especially in short range where they do more damage with their Melta rifles. Only the Plague Scroller and Mortarion can basically take multiple rounds of fire from the Eradicators. Rhinos, Hellbrutes, and Predators are very vulnerable. Our Terminators can be quite resilient. They need a 4+ damage roll to die outright in long range, and they have the 4+ invul save to help them. It would be nice to screen with Poxwalkers somehow to get the Eradicators to waste their shots on them, or maybe it's better Mortarion can let's say take the shots for the other units and leave time for the other units to close in and make the final kills. The Eradicators are toughness 5, wind 3 infantry, and can benefit from cover, terrain features, etc. And thankfully they lack invul saves. In order to take them out, it's important, at least in my opinion, to whittle them down from afar. And here I think the Plague Scroller's mortar and the stratagem can shoot. They can be shot even if they are obscured, and I think it's the best choice to take them to whittle them down from far. In melee combat, several of our Death Guard units can deal significant damage. Mortarion is a given, and Demon Prince, Lord of Contagion, Typhus are really good. The Death Shroud, Plague Marines in melee, etc. But the tricky part is to get the other units to come close to melee, not suffering shots at half range, which is really lethal. And Mortarion can bridge the gap fast, being flying, and with contagions also prevent the Eradicators from doing excess damage and then finally taking them out. So this concludes the video. What do you think about this analysis of the Eradicators, and what has your experience been on the tabletop facing them? I've had a couple of games where my Plague Scrollers took out quite a few, and the Eradicators they were focusing their fire on Mortarion, and Mortarion got in and killed 1 or 1.5 squads, and the Plague Scrollers and the ranged shooting took out the rest. So I had good experience with the Plague Scroller in this role. But let me know in the comments what you think, and if you like this video, please press like and subscribe to the channel, where I will be posting more videos on Death Guard tactics. If you want to support my efforts even more, please visit my Patreon page, General Yanis, and I hope you appreciate all the hard work and effort going into giving you all these calculations and information. And with these words, General Yanis is signing out. Stay safe out there, and bye-bye.